Welcome to this power-packed panel discussion titled A New Frontier: Understanding Data Security in the Cloud. Data provides a critical foundation for every operation of your organization. Protecting and using it securely is central to a zero-trust strategy. Unfortunately, cybercriminals also see the value of data and seek to exploit security vulnerabilities to put your information at risk. Secure data solutions, whether on-premises or in hybrid multi-cloud environments, help you gain greater visibility and insights to investigate and remediate threats and enforce real-time controls and compliance. This session will look at how organizations can set up cloud infrastructure and solutions to safeguard data against new threats. Our key discussion points shall be new cybersecurity challenges, understanding cloud security, network security, new cloud security solutions, and disaster recovery and backup. And it's with great pleasure that I invite our esteemed panel members, Mr. Harshad Mengle, Chief Information Security Officer, Future Group. Thank you for joining us, sir. Mr. Akhil Verma, Chief Information Security Officer, Airtel Payments Bank. Barry Cook, Group Data Protection Officer, VFS Global. And we'll be joined shortly by Shashank Bajpai, Chief Information Security Officer, ECGC Limited. And I welcome our panel moderator, Gaurav Shukla, Partner, Deloitte India. So without further ado, I hand over to you, Mr. Shukla.
Thank you for the warm introduction, Deepthi. Indeed, it is going to be quite an exciting session, and I welcome all of you in this session, New Age Frontier: Understanding Data Security in Cloud. Before I begin, I thought I'll just start with this quote, which is from a famous American cryptographer, Whitefield Diffie. He said, "Cloud computing is a challenge to cybersecurity, but the one that can be overcome." Indeed, it can be overcome, and this is what we will see. Two things. One is, what are those challenges in cybersecurity when cloud is being adopted, and also how those challenges can be overcome with our eminent leaders who are the panelists today, and they bring very diverse industry experience. We've seen a significant digital transformation in the last 15 months or so across all sectors of industry and society at large too. And cloud has been at the heart and center of this transformation. Well, this trend will only continue. We at Deloitte did a study that revealed that cloud enables organizations to access cutting-edge technologies and capabilities more easily and at a lesser price. Companies are 2.6 times more likely to prefer cloud services to traditional IT for acquiring advanced innovation capabilities like artificial intelligence, analytics, machine learning, and so on and so forth. While cloud provides enormous opportunities for efficiency, speed, and capabilities, but it at the same time poses a challenge in terms of data security, privacy, and compliance to various regulations. In a multi-cloud environment, this challenge becomes even more tougher due to perhaps the lack of understanding around shared environment and responsibility in the cloud at times. Our Deloitte study also revealed that the organizations that have established a strong data strategy and cybersecurity strategy, which is embedded to their data strategy for their cloud efforts, are 1.3 to about 2.2 times more likely to entrust cloud while dealing with sensitive data, whether it belongs to the employees, to the customers, financial information, or maybe intellectual property rights. We will delve into some of these areas today with our panelists. And with that, I'll want to go to Harshad first. Harshad, you come from a retail industry. The pandemic has changed customer behavior, particularly in the retail sector over the last 15 months or so. And it also has increased movements towards online, contactless, frictionless, and providing immersive solutions. There was a study that I was referring to. It was conducted by NASSCOM. It said that 67% of retail and CPG enterprises are adopting new business and delivery models. And about 83% are increasing their investment on digital transformation and digital adoption. With pandemic, there was a huge stress on the supply chain for retail companies also. So Harshad, According to you and based on your experience, how do you think one can balance data-led innovation without compromising on security and privacy, and also build a strong and resilient supply chain network?
Gaurav, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Gaurav, for inviting me for such a wonderful panel discussion. Thank you, ET, as well for this wonderful panel discussion. So I think you rightly mentioned that everybody is aware that the cloud is the next move, and I think in last 1.5 years we have seen the movement to cloud. When it comes to cloud, we always have being in the security. We always have that perception whether cloud is secure or not secure, whether all the compliances are met or not met. So while doing this, we realize that there is no good opportunity than this to move on cloud and make entire organization compliant. And this is how we started our journey. Of course, the migration, we started using cloud in last couple of years, and we realized that cloud is the next move. So data protection, in terms of what we believe, is basically the transparency and trust is the most important thing. So to build that transparency and trust, the one should first incorporate data or a privacy within the the security, privacy and security within the design itself. If you bring that security in the design itself, you always have a lever to handle security right in the beginning. Then the having vulnerability management program, a strong change management program, identity and access management program, how you are going to integrate your on-premise and cloud identities. These are some of the challenges which we have seen, and I think this is something which everyone has to do it. I mean, we have to integrate what kind of access control we need to give within the cloud and the on-premise is something which we need to define. So policy framework again comes a very important thing here. On-premise, when we are on on-premise, we always have opportunity to do a lot of network segmentation. When we move on the cloud, there is of course we can definitely go for additional services and also do the monitoring of what kind of customers are doing, what kind of solutions, products, and even the employees, what kind of access they have. I think that these are some of the changes which we have seen in the entire access control. Third point which I want to say is basically data protection. So we adhere to data security oriented control framework, where we always talk about governance is the most important piece. Then comes the data management layer, and third is the security layer. So governance is where for how long we are going to keep this data. The data identification, classification needs to be there in the governance. Second piece, we always talk about the data management layer, where do we need to use tokenization? Do we need to use encryption? Do we need to use masking? All that actually needs to be part of the policy framework, and we have to ensure that the customer experience, customer trust is the priority while designing the solution. These are some controls which we thought we will incorporate while designing the entire solution. And the third is the security layer, where access control, which I mentioned that identity and access management plays a very critical role. Who is moving, internal threat, external threat, what kind of applications vulnerabilities, infrastructure vulnerability. That will always be the security hygiene which organizations are following today. Two-factor authentication is going to be the next default, access control. That is what actually we realized, and we started using that as well. So these are some of the controls which we but yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Harshad. Thanks very much. Quite insightful observations there. Build the foundation right, put the right governance mechanism, and then look at how you're going to manage your data, and then envelope security around it, from the access control to the encryption and network segmentation. I think very well put, Harshad. Thanks for that. And this is for our audience. We want this session to be quite interactive. So feel free to put your questions or comment on the chat box. We will take it, while I have got my questions that I will throw at the panel too. I just want to go across to Akhil now. Akhil, in your kind of business, it is very obvious that security and fraud are the utmost concern. because you are dealing with digital payments, and it is evident from some of the features that you have brought in, like Safe Pay, to offer to your customers. Do you see a change in the Indian consumer mindset in terms of adapting these challenges or security features for their UPI transactions? And how are you dealing with that? How are you educating your consumer as well as the employees at large when it comes to providing holistic and wholesome cybersecurity to strengthen the security and privacy of your digital platform?
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav, and thank you, everyone. So yeah, it's a very apt question, and I'll pick up something from whatever Harsha just now mentioned. Means like security by design, and one word: customer trust. So in my area also, it's like it's a keyword, customer trust, because we are type of such type of bank where we don't have any physical brick and mortar type of branches. It's a completely digital. Now to ensure that customers are trusting our brand, trusting our, okay, it means their hard earned money, they have to keep it in our bank. So whatever the features we can provide. And second thing, as a user also, we have to think of what it is, what means any extra feature or something, it should not be inconvenient for anyone. Like even though if just take, okay, we are in security, but sometime you think of, if I'm keeping mobile for charging a bit far, but I'm logging in after that OTP, that I'm thinking, yeah, means what exactly, okay, I have to go, I have to see that OTP and then I have to put it. So it's like a balance, whether really means to anyone I have to allow to enter into my system, or same thing for my account also. But whenever it is coming to us, that time you have to think what exactly the perfect combination it should be there for the security. um, this thing you mentioned, like a safe pay we have enabled, so it's I'll say it's really well taken by the, means adopted by the customers. They are using, and we are a daily basis lot of increase in user base we are finding, because it's we have inbuilt in that journey itself. It's not like any other factor or something, it is going, you have to go on, you can say email or some other, where you are doing the transaction, just one pop-up message it is coming and it is giving the complete detail. Okay, Akhil is trying to transfer to Gaurav. Okay, that everything, it is not like some phishing call I'm getting and that time I'm revealing my money and it is showing it is going to some XYZ. We know that. So after that, yeah, it's just as a simple and just as a click, no need to remember anything, just click, okay, I'm giving my authentication. So miss, I have seen this thing, really it's a good adoption, and our customer base is also, it's like mixed, something rural, semi-urban and all these things. So it's a really, it's a means approaching well and good user set. So I think everybody wants, whoever is much more in digital users or something, everybody wants, and all these newses are there, like in this type model, a lot of frauds and everything it's happening. So people also want to keep their money safe. But yeah, people are moving towards adopting all such things.
All right, great. Thanks, Akhil. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you in a bit. I've noted down a few keywords that you threw upon us, security by design in particular. I'll just go to it, but I'll come to it. But then I just want to go across to Barry. And Barry, look at the enormity of your business. You know, spread across 5 continents, close to 150 countries, and you deal with huge amount of data, including personally identifiable information, at times strictly personally identifiable information also. And then you have to deal with the various laws, regulations, etc., across all the continents and the countries. And you have information with regard to the biometric data also of the residents and the users. How do you balance between different compliance requirements on data security on cloud for various geographies?
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav. You've just identified what keeps me awake at night. Yeah, it's an interesting challenge, as you say, with such a broad spread of countries. There can't be one normative regulation that we have to follow. So what I did was, basically, when I set up the framework at VFS Global, I looked at what the jurisdictions were, what the requirements were around the world in our countries of operation. And it basically, data protection legislation and also security legislation breaks down into 3 pillars. You have the regulations that are formed on, or what I call rights-based regulations. That might be something like the European regulation, the GDPR. You have a right to privacy, etc. Then there's the harms-based regulations, which are primarily the North American style and countries that are influenced by North America, where it says this will happen if there is a data breach. So it's dealing with the harms. And then there's the controls-based regulations, which say you will do it like this, you will do it like that. So, for example, the regulations coming out of China, for example, and the satellite countries there. So once I identified that, we could see that the great majority was sitting in the rights-based and the harms-based. So what I did was actually formulate our strategy to take into account the key components of those two areas. The control space was fairly easy because we could bolt those on as required by country. So the VFS Global Privacy Framework is based on the European Data Protection Regulation and the California Data Protection Act. So it's using those harms-based and rights-based components to set up that framework. And that means I've got a framework that I have a high level of confidence will work in any country of operation. Now, clearly, I need to look at tweaking that for individual countries because there might be different, data retention requirements in some countries, maximum, minimum requirements. But that's a little bit of tweaking because I know I've got a good framework in place. So that's the approach to sort of data privacy within VFS. But I'd just like to pick up on something that Akhil said there about the business about trust. And I think all of us here in this symposium, we may be in our different businesses, visa application, banking, retail. That may be our core business, but primarily we're in the business of trust. And that's what we have to convey to our customers, be it consumers or our clients, be it whether we're suppliers. We're about conveying trust. And I think strong frameworks, both in data privacy and in data security, actually go a long way to develop that trust with those clients.
Barry, thank you very much. Very well said that we are all in the business of trust, whether it is banking, logistics, retail, whatever it is, and cybersecurity and privacy further strengthens our consumers and customers' trust the way we are operating in the business segment. Very well said, Barry. Barry, I will further probe you on this point when you mentioned that you did a segregation with respect to the harms versus the entitlements or maybe the rights.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So was there, after you did this segregation in your framework, did you also think how the effort is going to be segregated accordingly? And how did you deal with the challenge of shared responsibility, which becomes a bit more prevalent in cloud adoption, cloud environment, when you were dealing with the compliance regulations across various countries?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thanks, Gaurav. The shared responsibility, yes. I mean, that shared responsibility, if we're talking about sort of outsourced infrastructure providers, yes, like every company, VFS uses a private cloud in our case because of the nature of the business we do, but it is still a cloud-based mechanism. Yeah. So what we have to do is we have to have clear delineations of responsibilities. Especially where we're going across companies, we very strongly define roles and responsibilities for our applications team, our infrastructure team, and our cloud service providers as well. And also we've developed a partnership with them. So their cloud service provider takes part in our meetings, our change from control meetings, those change advisory board, the classical, IT type meetings. So they're very much part of our business, so much so that, we almost forget they are a third party from time to time. Invite them to events when we could do events. So yeah, that's important. And coming back to the other aspect, we have to work very carefully with our cloud providers, because there's certain legislation, certainly US legislation, such as the US Cloud Act, which allows US owned companies, sorry, I rephrase that, law enforcement to access the information that US owned companies actually have. And obviously within our business, our client governments are not too keen on that. So we have to work extremely closely with our cloud service providers, to make sure, for example, our encryption keys, where we encrypt our data, are not kept within the same cloud, within the same company, for example. So we key a scroll outside, so those keys are outside the reach maybe of any legislation that might want to take them. So yeah, we have to have a highly cooperative organization. Thanks.
Thanks, Barry. And I'll just go across to Harshad. And Harshad, you did touch upon supply chain network, and then what are the various kinds of checks and balances with regard to that cybersecurity you embedded into your supply chain network. But if you really look at the supply chain network configuration, there would be your partners, your third parties, fourth parties, etc., that would come and then become part of your supply chain network. And while you can build or build all the cybersecurity capabilities within your organization to protect them, but the moment data leaves the boundary of your organization, right? It is, let's say, in the hand of your third party, fourth party, etc., your business partners, your retail supplier, and so on and so forth. How did you then strengthen your supply chain network, considering these third parties and fourth party into account? And what is it that you would provide your recommendation to our viewers in terms of how they should deal with it?
Yeah, great. It's a great question, Gaurav. Supply chain is always a challenge, and in the last couple of years, we have seen a lot of threats and data exposure is through supply chain. So we understand this right in the inception phase. What we created is basically from a preventive control standpoint before getting enrolled to our framework. So supply chain, the vendors has to undergo rigorous assessment. So we conduct two to three assessment, mainly what kind of a policy framework they have, what kind of a data they are going to touch upon, how they are going to touch upon, what kind of a control mechanisms they have, whether they are coming through VPN, they are coming through controlled, uncontrolled environment, what kind of employee strength they have, how they are educating their employees on the cyber security. These are certain high level parameters which we assess the entire we assess the vendor. That's one way to look at it. Second is basically once they comply to all our requirement. Second phase is basically we do a lot of from a detective standpoint, we do a lot of surprise audits. So we select some of them, and then we do surprise audit. We identify whether whatever they have mentioned in the framework, whether they are adhering to those controls, is something which we always look into it. And the third is basically from a contractual standpoint, we always include contracts which gives them a sense that while working with us, they have to ensure that data security is the most important, because we are into business of, as Vedi also rightly mentioned, business of customer trust. So transparency is equally important. You need to be very agile in the way, at the same time innovative, and making all the compliant to the framework. The group's framework is something which we insist them to. And third point, which I think we covered a lot largely, is basically awareness, because most of the time what happens is the awareness is the major factor when it comes to third parties. There will be small, large third parties. Small third parties may not be having that kind of infrastructure to understand the threats and the vulnerabilities which are coming from them. So we educate them that this is what actually is your threat. We do a threat hunting before. So we do a threat modeling, rather. Sorry, we do a threat modeling, and we educate them that these are the threats you are exposed to, and you have to plug these gaps before coming on board, onboarding on the framework. So these are few high-level things which we typically do while bringing or working with our third parties.
Understood. And Harshad, I'm sure we have experienced it a lot while we were advising, or we keep advising to our clients on building robust third-party risk management framework, and then do these, like you mentioned, surprise checks, continuous audits, remote assessment, on-site assessment, and then put together a comprehensive view how they are responding to your basic minimum compliance requirements with regard to cybersecurity. But we noticed it quite a few times, and then not sure whether you came across when you were talking to your vendors or suppliers. Did you come across an inhibition, or maybe a bit of defense mechanism where they said right to audit is not mentioned in the contract? Typically, that is a clause that gets missed out from the cybersecurity audit point of view, or this will require additional effort. It will require more cost. So, did you come across these challenges? And if so, how did you go about dealing with them?
Yeah, so as you rightly mentioned, so right to data or right to audit is something which we always incorporate in our contracts. The second point which I would like to add here is basically once you move from one vendor to other vendor, what about the data which he has access to or which he has stored? Are we ensuring that he's wiping out all that data which is important? This is something which I came across. Getting that data wiped out, doing that audit, and ensuring that the vendor provides us a certificate that he's not using this data, or he's not going to recover the data, because we have no control. Once data is stored on cloud, we do not have control where how many copies of data he has made. So we ensure that he is deleting all that data and also giving us a certificate that he has deleted from all his stores, data stores. This is something which I came across. Right to audit is something which we are incorporating in all our contracts to ensure that we get access even after 15 days of contract termination. So this is something which we have ensured that in our contracts. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Harshad. And you brought up a very important point, which was awareness, increasing the awareness of people. And I think I truly believe that uh, as the professionals of the cybersecurity fraternity, it is our responsibility for contributing to society at large also. I call it cyber social responsibility, that we must all educate and bring more awareness to all walks of people, whether elderly or even the children, because digital is a tool which is available to everybody now. Even a 1 year old child, I see a 2 year old toddler is having a device and there's completely on some, watching some videos, etc. Elderly people are also, getting accustomed to making digital payments, and also the ways to various media platforms, etc. So I think it is upon us how we bring that education culture and awareness culture. And in a country like India, it becomes even more important because a large part of our population is in rural areas, right? So how do we educate them to deal with cyber security? At the same time, they make the efficient use of digital and technology as well. So, and in Deloitte, we started calling it as a cyber social responsibility, which I believe is everybody's responsibility too. And then if you put it as an acronym, it becomes CSR, and that actually could become a CSR activity too. And from that very interesting point, question which has come on the chat box, and it is for you, Akhil. I don't know whether you watched this movie Jamtara, which had come, which was in relation. So Barry, this is for your knowledge. There was a movie which was made in India called Jamtara. It was a set of young boys. They used to call people, and then they used to do wishing and phishing frauds through that. So the question is in relation to that. I really appreciate the viewer who has asked this question. So Akhil, the question is, how do we protect consumer at large from phishing attacks and phone frauds? Very similar to what we saw in movie Jamtara, and in the context of what I said earlier, India as a demography.
So your word, that CSR. So ultimately, it's the one main key. It's like awareness. So one thing, if as a user we are about to give our some credential, or we are getting tricked, so how we can avoid? So there, how this it can be ensured that okay, means at what level that awareness should be there. Second means this, there is a means, so you can say it's a no alternate for this thing. Means this is the first primary thing. Means user should be aware, okay, whatever is the thing, we should not share our credentials, you should not share our OTP. Whatever calls are coming, we don't know how the people, means who is calling from that side, being as a some insurance company agent, being from the same bank or XYZ. So that is the one awareness. Second thing, like in earlier question, we have mentioned whatever is specific to my organizations, we have launched this, like my third factor, you can say. So at least if after some or the other way, due to panic, due to urgency, or due to some other best trick, if any other user got phished also, then also at least while means after sharing MPIN and credential, if I'm getting here, no, this amount, it is not going to the insurance company or some my bank or something, I know, okay, this is going to some XYZ person, at least I can decline that thing. So there my means in my application, this safe pay rules, it will come into picture. So ultimately it's a combination of like technological control and user control. And I said user side, there is a no alternate, that is a must thing, because after that also, if user is pressing this third factor also, then I don't think technology can work in that.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Akhil. And then I will try to bring everything else that we discussed so far together on this. Is awareness at the user level. I think your parent company keeps sending text messages around that also, that do not share this, your password, credentials, etc. And other awareness, initiatives that you talked about, those are there. But then while shared responsibility is a concept in relation to cloud, but then I think it is a shared responsibility for the entire ecosystem and those who are enabling it, to make sure that security and privacy is embedded all across all the layers through which services are being rendered to the users. And Barry mentioned, I think Akhil, you had coined this term, and Barry further emphasized on this, which was trust, right? I'm going to bring the new age word, which is zero trust here, right? So how do you all, and it is open for all three of you, how do you all believe or think that zero trust security models will help in achieving the trust principle in relation to confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which is at the heart and center of data? I mean, it is open for all three of you, and maybe Barry, you can take a lead since you emphasized on it further.
Yeah, I think zero trust is quite an interesting concept, because I think if we analyze what zero trust is, it's not a great deal different to what we do with boundary controls, except we brought the boundary controls in much, much tighter. So instead of being on the peripherals of our systems with firewalls and intelligent switches and IDS, IPS in place, what we've actually done is said, okay, let's bring it down to a very small area. And it speaks very nicely to the other model, which is data-centric security. And actually protecting the data based on the value of that data to the organization. Because, Harshad's supply chain data, Akhil's financial data is very different to my data. They all have equal values to our organizations, but very, very different precautions are required because of the nature of our businesses. Yeah. So I think zero trust moving into, not taking zero trust by itself, because I think zero trust kind of implies almost a physical type of protection, an infrastructure type protection. Whereas if we use, if we like, data-centric zero trust, then we're starting to bring in the asset owners, who really are the people who can put proper value onto that data, and then we can direct our energies and our budgets in the right area. So yeah, I think it's a great concept. Data-centric and zero trust together, I think, are incredibly powerful. Thank you.
All right, Akhil or Harshit, would any one of you like to add further to that?
Yeah, so I'll go next. So for me also, it's like a concept. Definitely, it's a combination of various technologies to protect this data-centric or whatever we need. But ultimately, I'll say it's not exactly, it's a new thing from the technology perspective, but yeah, conceptually always it was there. Barry has mentioned it's a framework and perimeter. It's nothing new thing. And the only thing, some concept is getting changed. Like we used to heard in so many places, and I'll give the one thing. Like earlier concept was there, like never trust and all means always verify. Sorry, trust but verify. and now never trust and always verify. So this only difference is there. Okay, whatever presently we are like in last 1 year we are working from home, and a lot of peoples and peoples are working from the devices. Earlier boundary was limited, like we were working from within organization. Okay, no, we know that okay, a organization or our employees are only connecting to our network, so we have to just protect our perimeter. I think more than 90% or something we are good to go, and we are having a good, enough level of security. But now people are working from their own devices, possibly organization. If organization devices connecting from the home network Wi-Fi, don't know whether that is compromised or not. So whatever the hits are coming to the entire network, it's a different, it's a dimension has changed. So that I think completely it's a concept and need to be taken with the combination of the technology. So that is my take for this.
Great. All right. I have one more question, and I think this is again, since all of you play the role of Chief of Information Security Officer or Data Protection Officer, which Barry has. And if you really look at it in the last a couple of years or so, maybe more than that, the role of the custodian of, I would say, security and privacy in any organization is increasing. The depth and breadth of the role. And boards are also taking more cognizance of matters in relation to cybersecurity and privacy. In many organizations, cyber risk is one of the key business risks also. So in your own organization, how do you catch the attention and then keep the interest or enhance the interest of your board in relation to the matters of cybersecurity and privacy? I mean, Harshad, maybe you can take a lead here this time.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Carol. Yeah, I think board in today's world, they are aware of what is happening in cybersecurity space. The advantage which we have is basically there are so many products. The way I look at this is basically take one solution, maybe a 5 minutes presentation to the board that this is what is the capability this particular solution has, and this is how we have adopted. That's one way to bring vendor in front of a board and showcase them what kind of a best practices can be achieved and which are relevant to your industry. So that's something which we are doing it in Future Group. So it's since last couple of years we are doing this, and we have seen the we are also increasing the awareness within the board, as well as we are also giving the confidence to the board that this is what is the best practice we are adhering to across our group, and this has helped us a lot. So this is something which I'm doing. I just sharing my thoughts here.
Thanks, Harshad. Barry or Akhil, would you like to comment on it? I'm just told that we have only 5 minutes left now.
Yeah, thank you. I think the important thing with the board is to obviously speak the board's language. And we know the board speaks in rupees, dollars, Swiss francs, whatever, and also they speak in risk. In other words, risk to those dollars, franc, rupees. So we have to speak that language in getting our message over. And one of the things I found to be particularly effective is shifting what we do away from a compliance model. We need to be compliant, otherwise we're going to get a big fine or whatever, to making it a strategy model. So saying by doing this, this will benefit the bottom line. Now it may benefit the bottom line in less fines, but also we come back to this trust aspect in that it benefits the bottom line because people trust the business. They're more likely to do business with you if you're transparent with how you handle their information, how you handle their data. And at VFS, we've seen this. It makes a difference. It acts as a USP. When we look at bids, it is a brand differentiator for us. So if you have that conversation with the board, you get their attention because that's the words they like to hear. You get their attention, you get the budget. One follows the other. So yeah, move it to strategy.
Absolutely, the strategy, and Akhil, I just come to you in a bit. Strategy, and then when you were talking about this, Barry, I recalled I was reading an article, and there was a quote from this famous author. His name is Bernard Kelvin Clive. He said that in this digital world, which is hyper connected, one byte of data can either boost your brand or bite it hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that goes very well with the board also, because board is also, in addition to risk management strategy, are worried about the brand and reputation. Yeah. All right. So Akhil, do you have any comment on this further to what Barry and Harshad also mentioned?
Yeah, so in addition to this only, means in continuation, we can say, means definitely it's no doubt that cyber security is boardroom agenda now. But as Barry mentioned, it should be whatever our language, it should be like business enabler. Not like, okay, we are just mentioning some controls, this will fall down or all those things. It should be aligned with the business. And yeah, as compared to the earlier, some means 5-10 years back, if we can say, we are hardly CISO or information security team, hardly they used to get 2-3 minute time for presentation. Okay, these are the, and that also it was aligned with the IT solution implementation, not specific to this controls. So that at least now it's a separate, at least in means BFSI sector, thanks to the RBI side also, means we have to report it to, you can say, means it's an RMCB, risk management committee of the board. So there it's a specific time is there for CISO to present whatever the complete strategy, whatever the complete thing, and for the future things also. Compliance definitely it's matter a lot. Otherwise, maybe it's incident, it may happen, it may not happen. But if you're not compliant with the particular regulation, fine, definitely it will happen. So it's always, it's a means we have to take those things.
Absolutely, and which is what Barry said, the impact on the bottom line as well. Yeah. Great. I think we had some very great points that we discussed, and then I'd like to summarize with the context of what perhaps is going to come more, or we can expect more from cloud. The time was limited. Otherwise, I would have liked to touch upon IT and OT convergence and the cloud being in the mix of it, and then how do you deal with data and with IoT devices. Prediction is that they're going to exceed the population of this planet Earth. How do we then figure out where the data is, and the cloud, which is going to be the custodian, processor, and also in the use of the data. I think one of the key takeaway for me was trust. If we all know whether somebody who's sitting in the boardroom or taking key decisions, being a CXO, that trust is the fundamental to our business, and cybersecurity and privacy will further bolster or enhance the trust that we have with our customers, consumers, stakeholders, and shareholders at large. The second point that comes is, Harshad, you had brought it up early on. Look at foundation, and then embed security and privacy. Akhil further emphasized on it. Embed security and privacy layer by layer to strengthen your cybersecurity posture overall. And the third point, I think all of you in some way or the other alluded to, is strengthening your overall network and data by making sure that enough backup is there. And Harshad, you mentioned that when you move from one vendor to the other vendor, what happens to the data that first vendor was holding? So therefore, having your business continuity strategy and the right backup strategy, that would also help make sure that whether you are on cloud or off cloud, your data is available to you when in need, and it is being used for the purpose it was meant for. And lastly, I would say is the awareness at all levels, whether it is a boardroom or it is a break room. The awareness has to be there across the board, and that is going to be a constant activity throughout the life of a chief of information security officer or data protection officer. Barry did acknowledge that this is the only thing that keeps him awake. So thank you, gentlemen, for all your insights and comments. I'm sure audience would have liked it. That wraps up our session for today. And really pleasure to have interacted with all of you. And pleasure, Deepthi, for having all of us here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Well, that was indeed an enriching discussion. Thank you to all our eminent panelists. To all our delegates, don't forget to visit our partner booths at the Experience Zone and ensure that you fill up the feedback form to gain points on the leaderboard and win exciting Amazon vouchers. You may visit the networking lounge to network and interact with co-attendees. Ladies and gentlemen, join us for our next session where we try and understand how AI can help in proactively securing data. Coming up shortly.